Well, I think we should start preparing our viewers now, Rich, for what happens if a deal doesn't happen. What do we expect next?
Well, remember, Cheryl, behind all of this is $600 billion in cuts to the military, $600 billion in cuts to other domestic programs. And in order to avoid that, what the super committee may do is come up with a few $100 billion in cuts to try to soften the blow of those cuts. And then they've got basically another year to change the law, try to change those automatic cuts, find cuts elsewhere. The talks will still continue. Just because the super committee would expire and possibly not hit its goal doesn't mean they can't change the law here, because in a way the super committee would be changing the law. It's just they lose what's called that fast track authority, an up or down vote in the Senate. If the super committee doesn't reach a deal, they lose that authority, and they just have to move along with regular order, getting 60 votes to change the law on the Senate side.
All right, Rich Hudson out on Capitol Hill. Rich, thank you very much. Well, all right, Jim, I brought this up, and that is the issue of Wall Street investors who, and please disagree with me, but that they don't expect anything to happen.
And I think you're right. And I guess twofold. One is, before there was the super committee, this debate, had all the drama. And I think the folks in Washington, respectfully, may not have understood how damaging that was and how the rest of the world looked at that as a real sign of a lack of leadership. And it followed with our country's sovereign debt being downgraded. Right. And again, that was a draconian move. So here's the super committee, and once again, we are bringing it to the the drama of Wednesday, which happens to be obviously the day before Thanksgiving, when families are going to get together the next day, and if they don't reach an agreement, is that going to be the topic at a lot of tables before you're hoping people go out and spend money on Black Friday and get ready for the holiday shopping season? So if we have that dysfunction again, and the can is once again just kicked down the road, what's going to happen to our holiday shopping?
I don't know, Bob. I mean, I think the point is, he's making a fair point. It's just kind of consumer confidence, if you will.
Really.
And I'm curious, from a stocks perspective, how much the debt situation in Washington is affecting overall market attitude right now.
I think it's important. I think we started to see it creep into the market just this week with a couple of down days that we had on Wednesday and Thursday. I think part of that was Wall Street's pessimism about what was taking place in Washington. If we don't have some sort of an agreement, $600 billion in cuts to entitlements and all sorts of domestic programs is a draconian measure. It's the equivalent practically of the austerity measures they're talking about in Greece, and it could be the thing that tips us back into a recession.
And that is certainly not what anybody that's a market participant or investor wants to hear, or just a regular American that does or does not have a job right now. Jim, how at risk do you think the U.S. economy is, considering what Washington has done, which has been, frankly, spent like drunken sailors for the last 3 years?
Again, you have, on the positive side, you do have companies doing more with less, and we've talked about earnings and some of the good things going on. On the other side, you have the number of folks who feel that the lack of leadership out of Washington and the regulatory environment that we continue to face is keeping employment issues, or keeping companies really from hiring, because they don't know what next year will bring. And this is a glaring sign that we're still, let's say, the gap is too wide in the leadership.
But fascinating, Jim, that you say that, because you like a company like Pepsi. That's a stock that you've picked in the past. You still like it, but Pepsi has been banking on emerging markets. Stock is down, but they're banking on growth overseas. They're not banking on U.S. growth.
And one of my themes there, again, is their global distribution channels. I think China and Brazil, in terms of where they're distributing a great deal of their products, they have some issues that they're facing, but they have, I think, a 3% dividend yield. So again, from a buying companies that have a franchise, have these distribution channels I'm highlighting, yes, kind of getting behind that.
All right. Well, guys, thanks to all of you. And we shall see Dow up 25 points right now on this Friday. Warren Buffett thinks that he and his super rich friends aren't paying enough in taxes, but one of his company's subsidiaries says that it is paying too much. Adam Shapiro in our newsroom with more on this one. Which company is making this stink, if you will?
Companies. NetJets, but it's the subsidiaries. NetJets Large Aircraft, NetJets International, NetJets Aviation, and Executive Jet Management. This is, by the way, this is the lawsuit that was filed November 14th. Essentially, they're suing the U.S. government. They want returned to them. Not all of this has already been paid to the IRS, but $642,706,119.89 in taxes they've paid to the IRS, as well as there's a legal battle going on. Most of it's not been paid. It's roughly $423 million they're still fighting over in court. Cheryl?
Well, why do they think that they shouldn't be paying? You know, this is over ticket taxes, which,
Yes.
if you're a flying consumer, you fly American, United, whatever, you know about the ticket taxes.
Well,
why
you
do
would
they
fly
think that they shouldn't be
Southwest. I
paying?
know you.
Exactly, yeah. But why do they think that they're immune from this?
I'm going to read to you exactly why they think they're immune, and there is precedent for their case. Congress intended the ticket tax to apply to passengers who purchase a ticket or the equivalent of a ticket for transportation on a commercial or charter aircraft. The ticket tax was not intended to apply to private aircraft owners and the fees they pay to maintain and operate their aircraft. And NetJets essentially leases aircrafts to businesses and private people who essentially own them.
Who, and probably pay other taxes as well. So does Mr. Buffett have any comment about this entire thing?
No. We called Buffett's office. I tried to get a statement from them, nothing there. And I actually left a message with his president saying, look, is there a hypocrisy here in asking for taxes on the wealthy or people who would probably be using NetJets versus trying to get the money back? Did get a statement from NetJets. You ready?
Yes.
Sometimes this job is so easy. NetJets does not comment on pending litigation matters. Okay? No, they didn't say the okay part. That's their general counsel.
All right. Interesting, Adam. I'm curious what you guys think about this. Do you think that they should be immune from it?
Well, if there's going to be no ticket tax, I got to think about going flying private now. I mean, that changes.
Well, you are Jim Frischling.
That changes the
Money
whole thing.
manager.
No, I think it has to do with right now executing the tax laws. This is going to be obviously a legal issue, and the question is whether that it did or didn't violate it. The fact is, I think if we just keep collecting on the taxes that are available to us, that'll help solve some of the issues before we have to rewrite all the codes. I'd like to enforce the existing tax laws, and again, if that means that they get some money back, well, there you have
Well, they
it.
fought this in court in 1958. Already been fought.
Okay.
And NetJets points out that in 1958, the IRS actually had a ruling which backs up the NetJets case. They should not be charging them these taxes.
Bob, I know that you're not an attorney, but do you have an opinion before we go?
Well, we don't tax corporate jet owners, right? So I guess that we ought to follow through on that, and perhaps it ought to be fodder to reconsider whether or not it's appropriate to apply a tax on people who can fly their own aircraft.
Well, maybe Jim, when he's got his corporate jet flying around, he'll let you, you know.
I'm a Metro card. I'm a Metro card guy. JetBlue.
Right, Adam. I want to thank Jim Frischling and Bob O'Brien. Guys, great to have you.
Terrific, Cheryl.
What are you
Thank
writing about on Sunday again, Bob?
That's right. Read it. Read Barron's on Saturday. You'll see.
Might move the markets. I don't know. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Well, Lori Rothman.